Welcome to California Gardening. In today's episode, we will look at two determinate tomato varieties that you can easily grow in containers. So the first variety of tomato we will look at is called Better Bush. So we started our tomato plants in February, and it's always recommended that you start your tomatoes after the last frost date in your area. So as you can see here, as the plant started growing, it did show a lot of vigorous growth. You can see all the nice and big stems and lush leaves here. And then as the plant grew older, it started producing these little tomatoes. Now at this stage, if you remember my tip from my previous videos, you need to stop giving a nitrogen-rich fertilizer to the plants. This will enable the plants to concentrate the energy on building these nice big tomatoes that you see here. By May, this plant had produced a lot of big tomatoes, as you can see here, and the plant was showing great growth with no signs of diseases. The tomato that you see here is ripened on the vine. This is the Better Bush variety of tomato. And we're going to go ahead and harvest this nice red and juicy tomato. So let's see how this fruit looks like. So as you can see, the fruit looks pretty solid and nice. And apart from a little bit of crackling that you can see, the fruit is pretty good. Now you can also let the tomatoes ripen on your shelf at room temperatures. Now as you can see here, these are the tomatoes that were produced by this plant, and overall this tomato looks really good. The texture is good, and inside you can see that there's a lot of flesh, so you can use this kind of a tomato for slicing, preparing sandwiches, or using it in salads. It's all good. Now what I loved about this tomato plant was that not only was the fruit almost perfect, without any signs of damage on the skin, it was also very delicious. And vine ripened tomatoes are anyway very nice, but this variety is an absolutely delicious tomato. Now the next variety of tomato we will look at today is called Container's Choice. This is a great determinate tomato variety that's easily available at your local garden stores, and this was also started in the month of Feb. Now this is another very prolific tomato variety that you can grow in your garden in containers. And overall, I think this plant was also very resistant to insects and diseases. Now you can grow determinate tomato plants in 5-gallon containers, as you can see here, or you can go a little bit larger and grow them in bigger containers. You cannot go wrong either ways, because tomatoes grow great in containers of sizes 5 gallons or above. So as you can see here, in the month of April, this plant started producing these lovely looking tomatoes. And by the time it was mid-April, I was able to harvest a few small fruits from the tomato plant. Now as the weather started getting a little warmer, and we were in the month of May, the tomatoes that were produced started getting larger and also started ripening on the plant. Now I like to keep my tomato plants clean, so if you notice the bottom parts of the plant, they are clean of dead leaves or diseased leaves. This is very important for your tomato plant. So let's go ahead and harvest this tomato, and as you can see, there's a significant amount of crackling or signs of cracks that you can see here on this tomato. But overall the tomato was quite large and quite nice. So once again, this is the Container's Choice tomato. And compared to the Better Bush variety, this tomato variety has a lot more cracks being developed on the fruit. Now again, this doesn't really change anything. This tomato is also as delicious and good looking as the other tomato variety we saw. So this tomato plant kept giving me a lot of tomatoes throughout the season, and we are now in May, and I'm still harvesting tomatoes almost every day from this tomato plant. So I wait for the fruits to ripen on the plant, on the vine, and that results in the best quality tomatoes that you will get. So when we cut open this tomato, you can see that this tomato variety is a little bit more juicy. And between these two tomato varieties, if I had to choose one, I would probably choose the Better Bush. However, you cannot go wrong with either of these tomato varieties. They're great tomato varieties for your container garden. So I hope you liked this video, and I'd like to know from you what tomato varieties you grow in containers and whether you like growing determinate or indeterminate tomatoes. I'll see you again soon. Happy gardening.